every product and service is subject to the laws of supply and demand. Obviously, if you have a big supply and things are available, but nobody wants it, then you're not going to sell that many. Electric cars is no different. As of right now, 1 or 2% of new cars that are sold are pure electric plug-in vehicles. Hybrids are a different story. Electric cars have a lot of obstacles to face to get a higher adoption rate. Look, if the cars are very desirable, they would be selling more than 1 or 2%. There have been some vehicles that have hit the marketplace in the last 10 years that are very popular that have had more than a 5% adoption rate. Some very popular cars, like Ford F-150 trucks or Ford Broncos, certain SUVs when they came out, instantly had a market share that was more than all the electric vehicles put together. Why is that? Well, part of it has to do with there's some pushback from people of how they use the vehicles. And obviously charging is a big part of it. When you commit to a full electric plug-in vehicle, you're committing to having to drive by every gas station as a way to get refueled. Now, you might think, well, driving by gas stations is a good thing because they all say $5 or $6. But you have to fill up somewhere. So with an electric vehicle, that means a charging station. Well, if you can't find one or it takes too long, that's going to be a problem. Here's an article from Ars Technica where it says electric cars are doomed if fast charger reliability doesn't get better. The subtitle is even more important. Every driver has a horror story about charging. Adoption is going to stall. There's your answer. Even people who do have electric vehicles, everybody's got a grumpy story about it. And if that happened with any kind of car, no one's going to want them. Even the biggest EV enthusiasts can't ignore the fact it takes a lot longer to recharge a battery than fill a tank with gas, even when a battery is connected to a fast charger. The way we use cars now is a car means freedom, being able to travel from coast to coast on a whim. Stopping every 250 miles is a problem if you have to wait hours to do that. And people say, well, just plan. Well, some comfortable readers might be saying, nah, I just need to plan for your trip. Yeah, planning makes sense, but if there's not chargers anywhere you need to go, the planning isn't so much your route, it's where you have to stop. Sometimes you have to stop sooner because there may not be a charging station. Sometimes you have to worry about if you're going to run out of charge. Here's the reason why. With a gasoline car, you don't really have to plan. When you start seeing the gas gauge get below half or maybe towards a quarter, it doesn't matter where you are in the world. You're going to be within 10 or 15 minutes of a gas station, especially if you're on a major highway. Even if you're in rural areas, it's going to be very difficult to be in a place where 4 or 5 gallons of gas isn't going to get you somewhere. A quarter tank of gas for a typical car is about 4 or 5 gallons. Even at 20 miles per gallon, that's 100 miles. It's very hard to be farther than 100 miles from a gas station. Very hard to be. So as long as you don't let it go below a quarter tank, you're going to be okay with a gasoline car. Electric vehicle, different story. Even if you don't let it go below half, if you have a 200-mile range and you're at half, that's 100 miles left. There's many places in the country that are farther than 100 miles from a charging station, especially a fast charging station. Maybe you're near a typical AC charging station at half a tank, but that might take you 5 hours or 6 hours to charge up, or sometimes even longer. Do you want to stay parked in one place for 8 hours? Is it safe to be there for 8 hours? Is it in a bad neighborhood? Is it dark? So this is the problem with adoption of electric vehicles. And it's not just finding a place. A lot of these places, people run into problems. One reader wrote that most places you have to wait 5 minutes to see if the charger would even connect to the communication system. Sometimes you have to wait 10 minutes. And the overall result is only 1 of 6 charging stations was painless, meaning that they could just plug in and charge up right away. A lot of them don't even work. There was an article in Car and Driver a couple months ago where in the Bay Area of California, San Francisco, presumably a very high adoption of electric vehicles, only 25% of the electric chargers worked on this in this survey, in this article, 2 of 4 chargers were completely inoperable. So that's half that don't work. Okay, what about even if you do find one that works and you're plugged in? Well, then you have the breathing over your shoulder mentality. What that means is you get to the charger, no one else is around, and you're recharging your battery, but then somebody else pulls up and joins the wait. Now you're worried because this person is like breathing down your neck. You feel like you're getting in their way. At a gasoline station, even if you pull up and all the tanks are taken with people pumping gas, you only have to wait a minute or so to get a gas pump. But let me ask you this. If you've driven a gasoline vehicle, pulled up to a gas pump, and all the pumps are full, knowing full well it's only going to be a minute or two before you can get a pump, what do you feel like during that minute? Aren't you annoyed, aggravated? Yeah, you're going to play with your phone, maybe play with the radio, but you're still annoyed that you have to wait. What if you have to wait 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or an hour just to get plugged in? This is the biggest reason for the failure of adopting electric vehicles. It's not so much the price, although the price is a factor too. Most electric vehicles are about $10,000 more than a comparable gasoline vehicle. And there are some tax offsets, but it's not cash, it's a tax credit. So people worrying about their freedom of using a car is what's holding it back. There's no clear solution to that. What do you think the solution is? If you like electric vehicles, how do you propose to get more people to want to give up their dreams of just driving anywhere they want and not having to worry about finding a station and waiting hours to get their car refueled?